Job hunting is the real horror story. Some people are afraid of ghosts, some are afraid of the dark. In Japan, there is something scarier. It doesn't live in abandoned houses. It doesn't crawl out of televisions. It waits for you after graduation. It has a suit, a fixed smile, and a deadline. Welcome to job hunting season. Thousands of students dress the same, smiling the same, saying the same lines. I am passionate. I am flexible. I am motivated. They practice answers like memorizing spells. One mistake, and you disappear. This is not a ghost story. This is something worse, because everyone knows it's coming, and no one can avoid it. Tonight, let's talk about why job hunting might be the most realistic horror story of all. A short history of modern Japanese job hunting. To understand the horror, we need to go back in time. After World War II, Japan rebuilt fast, very fast. Companies made a promise. If you joined straight out of university, they would keep you for life. This was called lifetime employment. In return, you gave them loyalty, long hours, and sometimes your youth. University became a gateway, not just to knowledge, but to stability. By the 1980s, during the bubble economy, companies hired aggressively. Getting a job was competitive, but growth felt endless. Then the bubble burst. The 1990s arrived. This period is called the lost decade. Companies stopped hiring. Young graduates were called the employment ice age generation. Ice age. Even the name sounds cold. From that point on, job hunting became intense, structured, ritualized. Identical black suits, mass entry sheets, group interviews, endless self-analysis. It stopped being just recruitment. It became a season, a national event, a psychological trial. And today, the system still remains, even in a world of startups, remote work, and global careers, because in Japan, the first job is still seen as destiny, and that is where the fear begins. Psychological turn. But the real horror is not the history, it's the feeling. In Japan, you don't first hear about job hunting in university, you hear about it as a child. I remember being in elementary school, maybe 9, maybe 10 television commercials would show it. Students in black suits, sitting in a perfect row, waiting. The camera would zoom in on their faces, polite, still, smiling, and for some reason, it scared me. Not because anyone was shouting, not because anything violent happened, but because everything was quiet, controlled, uniform. The message was clear, even if no one said it out loud. One day, this will be you. As a child, I didn't understand resumes. I didn't understand corporate culture, but I understood pressure. The way everyone looked the same. The way one word could decide everything. The way rejection letters arrived silently. It felt like a ritual, a test you cannot prepare for, but are expected to pass. And what makes it terrifying is that it's invisible. No monster, no blood, no scream, just expectation. You grow up knowing there is a season where you must prove your worth. In a room with fluorescent lights and a fixed smile. That's the horror, not the interview, but the years before it. When you already know it's coming, the rule you cannot escape. There is another rule, one that makes everything heavier. In Japan, most companies hire, all at once, new graduates, same year, same season. This is called simultaneous recruiting. If you miss it, the path becomes narrower. It doesn't disappear, but it changes. The first company matters more than many people admit. Your first job is not just employment, it becomes a label. Future employers look at it. Parents talk about it. Friends compare it. It becomes part of your identity. In some countries, you can experiment, change industries, restart. In Japan, the first step often decides how smooth the rest of the staircase will be. And that's where the fear grows. Because at 22, you are asked to choose a door that may define your next 20 years, without knowing yourself, without knowing the market, without knowing the future, and everyone around you is running. At the same time, not running is suspicious. Running too slow is dangerous. Running in the wrong direction can follow you. This is why it feels like horror, not because the system is evil, but because it is quiet, collective, unavoidable, and it begins long before you even understand what you are afraid of. You can't just walk away. You might think, then I just won't join. I'll skip the system. I'll find my own path. That sounds brave, until you realize the system doesn't disappear, it waits. In Japan, when someone asks, "Where did you start?" they don't mean school, they mean your first company. If you say, "I didn't do the usual job hunting," there is a pause, a small silence, and silence in Japan can be louder than rejection. The fear isn't that you fail, it's that you step outside, and the outside is undefined. No script, no template, no shared language. The horror of new graduate recruiting is not just pressure, it's synchronization. Everyone moves together. If you step out of line, you don't fight a monster, you face ambiguity, and ambiguity is harder to explain to parents, to relatives, to interviewers. Why didn't you follow the process? There is no screaming, no accusation, just a question that feels heavier than it sounds. Even if you escape the season, its shadow remains. At job interviews years later, on resumes, in introductions, it's not chasing you physically, it follows you structurally. That is the psychological horror, not a jump scare, not a sudden failure, but the knowledge that a decision made at 22 can echo quietly for years, and you knew about it since elementary school, from a television commercial. You didn't fully understand, but somehow already feared. The Ice Age generation. In the late 1990s and early 2000s, something froze. Companies stopped hiring, not slowly, abruptly. Graduates sent out hundreds of applications. Silence. Some were told, "Try again next year." But in this system, next year means you are no longer new, and being not new is already a disadvantage. They were called the Employment Ice Age generation. Ice Age, a cold word. Imagine graduating at the exact moment the door closes. You did everything right. You studied, you prepared, you wore the suit, and still, no offer. Some took temporary jobs, short-term contracts, dispatch work, every year thinking, this is just temporary. But temporary can quietly become permanent. In interviews later, there would be a question: why didn't you secure a stable position when you graduated? How do you explain a frozen economy in a single sentence? Some people carry that gap for decades. Lower lifetime earnings, fewer promotions, less stability, not because they failed, but because they graduated at the wrong time. That is another layer of horror. The idea that timing can brand you, that history can enter the interview room before you do. And this story is told quietly. No dramatic music, no headlines anymore, just adults in their 40s now, still slightly behind, because the season they entered was winter. That is what makes the system frightening. It is not only about effort, not only about talent, it is about the year you happened to turn 22. No monster, no villain, no dramatic collapse, just a calendar, a year, and a door that opens only once. Some people walk through it, some arrive too early, some too late, and some stand in front of it, wondering if it will open again. The frightening part is not rejection, it is timing. Because in this system, winter is not loud, it is silent. You wake up, you put on the suit, you practice your smile, and somewhere, without noise, without warning, the season changes. And if you miss it, nothing chases you, nothing screams. The world simply moves on, and you are left explaining why you didn't move with it. That is the horror. Not ghosts, not curses, just a quiet room, fluorescent lights, and the feeling that the door may not open the same way twice. Welcome to the scariest season no one calls a horror story.